Hi, I'm the new guy. I'm Dylan Jones.
Hey, Dylan. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I really appreciate you all logging in and choosing to spend some time with us this afternoon. We're just going to let everybody log in for a little bit, and then we'll get started with a couple of ground rules, and then we'll get into the presentation shortly, okay? So just hold tight for us. Appreciate it. All right, so just wanted to say hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started in a second here. A couple of grounds. We are going to be broadcasting on Facebook Live in a couple of minutes. So please, please, please keep your microphones on mute. Please open your chat box. If you don't know where chat is, go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, and there is a chat icon. Go ahead and open that. If at any point during the seminar today you feel there is a question or something that you would like to ask or would be topical to it, just put it in the chat. I will be monitoring chat as we go and inserting questions when I can, if they work. That being said, it is a discussion. We're just trying to have a good dialogue as we go through this with our presenters. So we'll get started here in a second, but once again, please keep your microphones on mute, okay? Unless you're one of the panelists or our sponsor, just so we can make sure we get great audio for Facebook Live. Once again, questions in chat, please. That's how we'll handle them for the seminar today. 1 second, and we'll go live in a little bit. All right. All right, Marley, whenever you want to flip it live, feel free. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce Small Business Advisory Council seminar. Today, we have a great panel discussion about businesses back. Palm Beach County just opened into phase 2 of the COVID-19 reopening plan. So we really want to take an opportunity today to talk with some really great business owners about their experience in moving through the pandemic, the phase of reopening, and their outlook on the future. These events would not be possible without fantastic sponsors. So with that being said, I really want to welcome our sponsor for today, Alexander Cook with Optimist Capital. Alex, would you like to say a few words, sir?
Yes, hi, James. Thanks. Can everybody hear me? Because my mic is way over here somewhere. I've been a member of this chamber for almost 3 years in another month or so. And the first friends I've met in Florida are through this chamber. One of my closest friends is a member who joined around the same time. The Palm Beach North Chamber has been great to me, so I'm very happy to help any way I can. As for us, we are an institutional wealth management firm that most of our business is not in Florida, but it's nice to be headquartered here. And we run profit sharing plans, pensions, and individual assets, some corporate assets. We're active managers, so we actively trade only on active markets. So if I'm looking up a lot, it's because there's a wall of computers up here with numbers running all the time. Outside of that, we are very happy to be involved with the Small Business Council here. It's been an interesting time. I'm sure everybody has had some successes in the last few months. We've been lucky we're not as affected by the COVID situation as a lot of other businesses have, but we're probably few and far between in that case. We've seen some major changes in markets and major changes in the future of markets, and small businesses, I think, are going to have probably most of the blowback going forward. You know, it's time to evolve, and the Zoom meetings are part of the evolving. It's good to see all these people on here. I'm not on Zoom that often. That's my fault, but it's interesting to see everyone join in. And thank you for that, James.
Thank you, Alex. Your support for the Small Business Advisory Council is greatly appreciated. And as well, you've been a great chamber member, so we thank you very much for that. So real quickly, for our participants joining us on Zoom, like I said, the chat is open for questions. So as you see a question, feel free to interject in the chat. As well, anybody watching us on Facebook, if you do have questions, please go ahead and add the question to the Facebook comments. We'll be monitoring that to then ask as well. With that being said, I just want to introduce myself again. I'm James Garvin. I'm the chair of the Small Business Advisory Council here at the Chamber. And we have three great panelists with us today. And I would like to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and kind of kick today's event off. So we have Terri Dew, Rick Opton, and Jacob Mingle with us. And so they're here today. And I just want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So Terri, can you tell us a little bit about your, who you are, a little bit about yourself and your business and your role there?
Absolutely, and I'm pleased to be here. Hopefully we can all learn from each other. So I am Terri Dew. I'm one of the owners at Abacoa Golf Club, which is it's a public golf facility for public golf and as well as events and weddings and good stuff like that, and a restaurant open for lunch every day. My husband and I were owners when it was dirt. So that back to 1999 is when the golf course opened, and we have been an owner since then. Seen a lot of changes through the years, and definitely a lot of changes in these past few months. So I am the administrator here. So basically, I like to call I'm Mikey. So whatever nobody else is doing, that's what I get to do, along with all the accounting and admin and HR and IT, lots of hats. So that's who I am.
Jacob?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Jacob Mingle. I'm the general manager at J. Alexander's Restaurant. I've been here in Palm Beach Gardens a little over 7 years in December, but I've been with the company for 15 years, and it's now the third state and the 9th location I've worked in. We're just all about providing a great experience for our guests with the highest quality food possible and the highest quality service as well.
Rick?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rick Opton. I'm the owner and general manager of Loggerhead Fitness. We're a boutique health club located in Juno Beach, about 9,300 square feet. Pre-COVID, about 2,000 members. And I've been operating as owner of this location for 15 years, although it's been in this plaza for about 28 years. So I took over in June of 2005. And we're a boutique gym, so very different than some of the big box retailers, but also facing the exact same challenges that all gyms are.
Great. So why did you choose this industry, Rick?
Why did I choose the industry of fitness?
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the same reason that most of us do what we do in life. It's because you have some passion for the work that you're going to do all day long. I absolutely enjoy being in this environment, surrounded by really healthy people. I like helping others get fit and enjoy exercise the way I do. So that's what got me into the industry. I've been doing it for a long time.
And Jacob, why'd you choose the restaurant industry and specifically J. Alexander's?
I don't know if you necessarily choose it. I think it actually probably chooses you. I grew up in restaurants. My father ran a restaurant my entire life. So as soon as I was old enough to hold a tray and bus tables, that's kind of what I was doing. Left it for a while, and when I was in college, looking for a job to pay bills, my brother got me a job at J. Alexander's as a server, and the rest is history. So I kind of worked my way up, started from the ground, and virtually done pretty much every position and held every role possible, up to general manager now. So.
And Terri, it's a pretty big commitment to build a golf course, right? So what made you all choose that?
Well, they already had plans. Someone else had owned it, but then kind of backed out at the last minute. So it's been my husband's passion golf, since he was 4 years old. So if you ask me why I chose the golf industry, I would say I categorically did not. I was a little frightened. We were living in Atlanta, and he said, "I want you to come down to Florida." He was here at a tournament, and he said, "I think there's a great investment." And I came down, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "This is a lot of dirt," because it was just dirt. And I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yes." It was a leap of faith for me. So yeah, I didn't choose it. My husband did, but I'm a big part of it and happy to be here.
So speaking of leaps of faith, though, how has you've seen a lot, and likewise all of our panelists have seen a lot. So really, so let's get right down to it. How has business been impacted? How has your business been impacted by COVID? And is it still being impacted?
Well, yes, it's been impacted. Yes, it's still being impacted. And yes, we think it will be impacted for quite some time. Like a lot of other businesses in South Florida, we are seasonal. And so we, obviously our best time of year is, from November, December on through May. And then your summer months obviously are a lot slower. So, I feel like we went from 0 to 60. No, I'm going to take it backwards, 60 to 0 in like a matter of a week. We're open, what's going to happen, and then, oh, by the way, you're closed. So, the golf part was closed for a good 6 weeks. And, as you sit here, we were able to maintain the landscaping. So, because obviously, that it can't, you can't let that go and just become a big eyesore in the middle of the town. So we were able to maintain that, but that was it. And, so not only do you not have your everyday money coming in, the money that you make now to get you through the summer is a worry. So it definitely impacted us. It's hard to be in this big building with no money coming in. So it's a scary, scary proposition. And as we begin to reopen, I will say this on our end, golf is through the roof. I mean, it's one of the few things people can still do and feel safe. So there certainly were some changes that we had to make when golf was allowed to open, but golf is great. The food and beverage and event side of it obviously has taken a big hit, and that's what's going to be very slow coming back. So,
Jacob, did you experience a similar 60 to 0 kind of week of just like what's going on here at J. Alexander's?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all did. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it was kind of coming at the tail end of things, but it's definitely been tough. You've had to rework and redo and change procedures, and we've definitely done a lot of things now that we typically did not do before. And it's a little different for me because I come from I'm one of 37 locations in the company, and so we have a larger pool, but when you look at it from a grand scheme of things, where you see 20, 30, 35 locations all being down 30, 40, 50, even 60%, in sales versus last year. So it's definitely scary. But things are slowly turning around, and, other parts of the country where maybe it wasn't as severe, or the cases weren't as high, and the anxiety and things weren't as bad. Some of those stores are actually doing, more sales now than we were last year. Even now, finally, as we move into phase 2 in this past, I would say month and a half, we've really seen a really positive turn in the right direction, going from, 30s and 40s and even 50% down to, realistically, the past couple of weeks, it's been, 20%, maybe even less at times. So it's been a really nice thing to see.
And so, Rick, did you have a similar experience at the gym?
Indeed, we did. I guess you could describe it as shock and awe the first week when everything got closed down. I don't think there's a single small business owner, any business owner in this area that was just reeling, trying to figure out what they're going to do. And a lot of soul searching at that point. How do we make money at a time when there's nobody coming in? I will add this. I like golfing a lot. And my gym, even though it was closed, I was going in every day and working out. So I was exercising. That was okay. But I wasn't golfing. That was what was stressing me out. I just want to let you know. So I can relate to what Terry's saying there. So I think what's more interesting in terms of my business is that as one gym, we are experiencing the same thing that just about every gym in this country is experiencing. Some gyms are not even open up right now. I don't know if you realize that California, they're only allowed, they just opened up this week, 10% capacity only. So we're facing just all kinds of struggles in terms of perception. And can we convince people to feel confident enough to come in and exercise around other people that are quote unquote expelling droplets in the air? So we have faced a number of, I guess you could say, problems that have to be solved around, running this type of business in our industry.
So that being said, since, Rick, since you have a gym with a lot of touched surfaces and tightly packed equipment, how did you adapt to the social distancing guidelines?
I don't think I did really anything special than any other business person would have done. You just follow the guidelines. I mean, if you ask Jacob, he knows what he needs to do. He moves his tables apart. He puts markings on the floor. I mean, every business has done that. We've all seen that as consumers going into retail businesses. It wasn't that hard to really adapt to the physical distancing. I think that the bigger, issues for us is, the masks, the face coverings. You have people who want to exercise without. Earlier before we started this, Jake was talking about you do things that are right for the customer because you want your customers to feel safe in your environment. And so everything we do, all decisions are built around, is this going to get people to feel safe? Are they going to come in and use the product or service that we're, that we sell? So that's been our whole focus since this whole thing happened. And we found some pretty unique ways around it. Physical distancing, not so much a big problem for us because we're at 50% capacity. So already there's just, our numbers are way down. So there's really we're not busy. There's not people, you're not going to run into a bunch of people when you come in here. And I think that's the way for many, many gyms right now.
So, Jacob, real quick question. What was one of the changes you made to the business to adapt to COVID? I mean, Rick talked about social distancing and other things. So what, did you have any similar issues or concerns, or how did you address them?
You strictly with like the front of house or guest aspect? Or are you talking more of
all of it? I mean, front and back of house. How did you, how do you make adjustments in the kitchen and in the front of the house?
We've drastically reduced the amount of staff, every shift, every day. And that started from the beginning, for the first, I would say 2 months, it was only me and my managers on staff that we were doing everything, so I was coming in every morning. I was making 6 to 8 carrot cakes every single day. And those are 24 slices each. And then still, going out and working the front and running food to cars and, doing whatever we could and, cooking burgers and, anything we could do to try to, drum up some business and try to get some sales in. But yeah, once we knew what we were going into, it's real simple. You like Rick said, you follow the guidelines. It's 6 feet. It's 6 feet. If it's not, it's not. So still to this day, there's tables that are blocked off, and people look at me and point and don't understand why they can't sit there, and then I have to go over because we're following the guidelines, or why are you on a wait right now? I see 22 open tables. And I said, I couldn't agree with you more, but these are the rules, and that's kind of what we have to do, because there are people who maybe don't feel the same way you do, and it's not just for you, it's for the employees, it's for, everybody's safety as well. We're just trying to do the best that we can with what we have to offer.
You brought up a really interesting point there, Jacob, and this goes for Rick and Terry as well. Is have your customers been understanding? I mean, has everybody kind of been okay with things? Are your customers adapting as much as you are?
Yeah, you asking me?
Yeah, all three of you.
Okay. It's most, I would say a great majority of them are. And then we do have people that are, just kind of questioning, when, we held off as long as we could, because obviously we didn't know how long this was going to go. I think for most, it's about weddings. I mean, these poor brides have had their weddings planned for a year. They have plans. They have, it's not just us. They've got, the band or the florist, and people have plane tickets, and a lot of them canceled early, and a lot of them were hanging on, saying, "Look, it's in September. Surely we'll be fine by then." And all we can say is we don't know. And I most people are very understanding, but a lot of people, have a lot invested with, the most special day of their lives that that is now put on hold. And so you did have, we had a couple that are like, well, how come they're doing it in other places? And people forget that, as soon as you hit Martin County, they didn't have the same rules and restrictions that they did. But they said, well, they can do it there. And I said, I know, but that's not Palm Beach County. So, that was a little bit challenging. But I would say the majority of people have been very understanding. And, they want to stay safe. We want to stay safe, and we want to keep them safe.
So I might add that when we first opened up, and we had done a survey to all of our customers to just get a feeling for their attitude about COVID. Where were they at? Were they going to come back right away when we opened up? Were they going to sit on the sidelines and wait? Were they never coming back? So we wanted to get a sense of that, and we did. We got quite a few responses from it, and the responses played out exactly with what happened. 30% they would come back right away. That's exactly what happened. So they were happy, they're loyal, they came in, whatever you want. You wear a face mask, whatever you want to do. We need to work out, got to work out. There's a whole bunch of people that canceled or not coming back, they're scared. And we have to build confidence now. We have to entice them to come back and show them the things that we're doing to make it safe. And then there's quite a few, another 30% or so that are just waiting on the sidelines. And so really what it comes down to is if you do not take steps and actions to show people that you're a location, a facility that is safe for people to be in, where they're not going to be fearful of, picking up a virus, a germ, or whatever. Until you do that, I don't think you get them back. It's just the way it is, and that's the breakdown that we have right now in our society. So we just got to hope that we can get enough people back to cover our bills, right? Because like any retail business, all three of us, we depend on volume, and when the volume disappears, it shows how vulnerable you are as a retail business. So now it's about getting people back.
So with that being said, Terry, Jacob, Rick, this goes for all three of you. What are you doing beyond following guidelines to instill that confidence in your clients to come back?
I think really it's more of kind of, then they need to see it. People go in and they see whether you're either doing it or you're not doing it. And, I've gone to plenty of restaurants that are not, and again, not necessarily, everybody's trying to do what they can to make ends meet and things like that. But it's making people feel comfortable, when they come in and they see you following the rules and they watch the staff. I mean, from day one, we've been preaching to every single person in the building, everybody's watching everything you do. Mm-hmm. So it's when you're on the computer ringing, how you handle a credit card payment, how you bust a table, everything we've ever done before, all of that is out the window, and it's all a brand new game. Everything is different, from one-use pins to, I mean, you name it. We no condiments on the tables, every booth and table is wiped between seating. The staff, before the things that were pillars of our business was, our speed. When you come into J. Alexander's, 60 seconds, someone's going to be to your table, get you started. Someone's going to get your drink right out. Now you have to wash your hands. I leave your table, I need to go wash my hands. And then I get your drinks. And then once I drop those drinks off, I have to go wash my hands again. So everything we've done has kind of been very, it's slowed down, immensely. And that's been a big struggle as well. But really it's just, following the procedures, and it's teaching your team what to do and keeping them and holding them accountable every day.
So what have you noticed though from some of your customers, Jacob, what have you noticed from customers that they expect now that they didn't before?
That's a tough one, because I feel like we kind of put a lot of pressure on ourselves to always be performing at the highest every day. So I think the biggest difference for us moving forward is going to be the family meals that you kind of talked about before, and some of the to-go things that we're doing now that we've historically never really done in our market, which is not a bad thing. I'm very pleased with the amount of to-go sales that we're able to do every day and every week. And I think that's probably going to be the biggest difference in bringing in an online to-go platform for us has been a huge help, not only for the labor aspect of it, but also just the ease, the lack of you don't need to do a payment in person. You can pay for everything online. You just pick your food up and you go. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest impact that they're going to expect moving forward. And I think that's definitely something that we're going to continue to do.
Terri, have you noticed anything your customers expect now that they didn't before?
I think that, our two industries that we deal with are so different, and then they just kind of come together under the umbrella. But, golf is a very different industry than a restaurant. In our golf, they do expect us, and, what we're doing to follow the guidelines. We had to, when this first happened, before we knew what the rules were going to be coming back, we anticipated a lot of things. And one of the things that we anticipated was that they're not going to allow two people in a cart. Obviously, you can't social distance with two people in a golf cart. You're not 6 feet apart. So one of the struggles for a lot of golf courses is that even when they allowed playback, and in the beginning, a typical distance between tee times is 9 minutes. When it first came back, they put it at 15. Because they wanted less people in and out of the pro shop, that kind of thing. Well, we anticipated a lot, especially the two people in the cart, and we called right after they shut us down and were able to lease extra carts, which was huge, because a lot of people, once they went from, they little by little, they let the time increment, reduce again. And we were able to, because we had extra carts, we were able to get back to almost a normal tee schedule, which was huge, because the people that didn't have the carts, you can do as much as you can, but if you only have one person per cart, you only have half the carts that you need. So, that was a big thing. And people are, one of the positive things for a lot of people, it's expensive to have the extra carts, but people love it, and the game has sped up. So, where it used to be we try to stick to a 4-hour round. When everybody has their own cart, people are playing in 3.5 hours, and that's something they really love. So, I don't know that we can afford to continue that indefinitely, but that's one of the positives that came out of it, is people are enjoying that more. So it's tough on employees, because we're not allowed to touch the golf. When you drive up, we're not allowed to go pick up your cart and put them on the thing, and that's how a lot of these guys make their money, with tips. But now they can't do as much. So, it's tough on employees too. But again, we're trying to keep people safe.
So you mentioned the great part about Abacoa Golf Club is that you're a golf club, a restaurant, and a wedding venue as well. Mm-hmm. So how have you juggled the distinct needs of 3 distinct businesses kind of in one place? Has that been a struggle or a challenge in any way?
It's not that it's a struggle, but it's a lot of different guidelines. Some of the guidelines aren't as clear as, so it's a lot that we've been doing for a very long time. But I want to say that I think one of the best advice I could give to anyone is, don't be afraid to think out of the box. We, like one of you guys said that, we've been doing things the same, we had to really look at it and see what the new model looked like. And again, the owners and some of the managers were the only people coming in for 6 weeks, and we met every day for hours. I mean, just thinking out of the box, what can we do differently? When we're started again, how do we, our goal was to come up with an income statement that was not a negative. How do we make that happen? How, like Rick said, how do you come up where you may not be making as much, but you're not losing? So, thinking out of the box and be willing to take some chances and do things differently, change your personnel, make everybody a little bit more efficient. I think that was a huge thing that we did to help us get through.
Well, and you speak of finances for a little bit, and we did get a question from the chat from a viewer on Zoom. So, and this kind of, feel free, anybody who wants to answer this, but how have you dealt with reducing costs, and how do they see the next 12 months planning out financially? I mean, from help from local or state or federal governments playing into that as well. What do you see happening? How has it been working for you guys?
I can jump in on that a little bit. In the beginning, I'm sure any smart business owner did what they could in terms of getting funded by the government bailout program that was in place, the PPP money, EIDL loans, et cetera, et cetera. And so everyone went ahead and did that to the best of their ability. That only lasted so long. So now we are facing that grave situation of how do you get a high volume machine back into high volume again? And so you have to start thinking outside the box, just the way Terri described. For those of you that can see my background image, if you look at it in full screen mode, you'll see that one of the things we had to do in our studio, and this helped reduce payroll actually, is we began to digitally stream classes, and we could actually record them and play them back on demand. So you could actually bring a class into the studio for those who wanted to come in and do an exercise in the studio, could get the benefits of the soft floor, the air conditioning, the equipment. But we were projecting pre-recorded classes to the screen, and people were doing them. Never thought I'd be doing that 6 months ago. Never thought about that. And then it goes even further now, because we're at the point where people want to come in and work out. And yet you asked us, what do our customers expect from us? I think some of them expect us to do their workouts, is what I think. So what we try to do is say, look, if you can't come here or are not comfortable coming here, we're going to go there. And so what we did is we, developed our whole digital strategy. And that means training people virtually. That means people at home can take Zumba and yoga. What about my instructors? Some of them didn't want to come in or couldn't come in because they had children at their home. So we weren't in camp or in school this summer, but excellent instructors with followers. So we could project them live virtually in our studio, teaching a class from their homes while people were coming in and doing the workouts. If you didn't stop, pivot, and turn and take and do some of these things necessary for your business, I'm sorry to say, but there's going to be a fallout. There will be businesses that just aren't going to make it, and there's nothing we can do about it. The volume's not there. So, those are just some of the thoughts that came to my mind when you asked about saving money and what customers expected from us.
I'll just say real fast. The other thing to that is, don't be afraid when you try something, if it doesn't work, to try something else. One of the things we tried when the restaurant was first closed is we tried to do takeout. And it's not that it wasn't good, but nobody thinks, we've never been open for dinner before. So people didn't think about Abacoa as a place to go get dinner. So it wasn't the amount of people, the food, all that kind of stuff that we had to do just to do a small amount of takeout wasn't worth it. Like, we had to very quickly say, you know what, other restaurants are more known. People are going to think of those first, so we're not going to do that. So the big point is, try things, and if they don't work, don't be afraid to try something else.
Jacob, did you guys try anything that you're surprised you got good results with, or that just didn't pan out as far as your pivots maybe?
Not per se. I guess, wine to go has not been a big deal for us. But I've sold some bottles, so any sales are better than no sales. But really it's just been, we're just running very lean. We've, if you've been into the restaurant, we've changed the menus. We've lost some items along the way to try to streamline some products that maybe we only brought in, one thing for one specific item, whereas, having less on the shelf is going to be less waste, utilizing, other things and different products. And we've gone to like a one menu for all of the South Florida locations. So that's been helpful, but then us with less prep products, we can run them with, less people, and so it's just being smart about, every dollar counts right now. So every hour counts, really managing the schedules and things like that. We did, some different things for our staff, when we were closed. We had some payouts for everybody that was on, payroll, even for the times when they were in quarantine, which is really nice. And then we kind of slowly brought people back in, and, there were probably some people who maybe didn't get brought back in just because, the position wasn't necessarily needed anymore. Different people are doing 2 or 3 positions in the same day, whereas before you would have, one person designated this area and another person designated this area. Now you might have one person who does 2 or 3 areas, but it still allows that one person to get, 20, 30, 35 hours a week. Where if you weren't doing it that way, you might have 3 people that are getting 10 or 15. That's not really sustainable for everybody. So just some different things like that, anything you can do to cut down on the payroll. The cost of what we do is very high. The chefs that work in the kitchen are very, very senior and talented and very skilled at what they do. With that, comes a high price tag. So, that's definitely been something difficult to get creative on ways that we can still, be profitable.
All right. So, I've heard a lot of you talk about over the last couple of questions, the regulations and the guidelines that you've now been forced to deal with. So what have frustrations have come from that? But then also, what resources did you all find to overcome them? Where'd you turn for tips or advice on how to overcome these new regulations that you had handed to you?
I think one of the first things we did was call our banker and, just talk through it with her. And her advice was to immediately take advantage of any, funding programs that you can. We have we have large overhead. And when you have nothing coming in and a large overhead, it's a little scary. And we did that. And so we did get the PPP. And basically at the beginning, it's such a relief. And then you realize what it did was gave us time. And I think that was the main thing. PPP gave us time to sit down and, while we could keep our people employed and sit down and really figure out what the different scenarios were going to look like. Literally every day we had, we must have had 50 budgets going through at that time. Like, all right, if our sales are 60% of last year's, what do we need to cut? If our sales are 55%, where do we need to go? If they're 70%, what can we add back? So we had all kinds of scenarios, but we did take advantage of what was out there. And then, it's things like this where you can learn from the other people in your industry or other people that are facing the same thing. You may hear something that you might, that you reach out to people and you might say, that's something that would work for us. So I think it really is important to keep your contacts open and really reach out to people, who may be dealing with the same thing and see what they did. So.
Yeah, I think I addressed it earlier. You get what you can get, and you do it at a very professional, high level. You should have a great relationship with your local banker. That was actually critical for us, that we had a really strong relationship with a bank right around the corner. We'd actually just moved over to them, and they stepped up and really pulled through and got us the loans that we needed to create cash flow to survive. Everything's changed right now. Now it's about building back again. I've been listening to a lot of webinars and reading a lot of interesting information about where's the economy, how long will it take for this rebound, particularly in my industry. And everything that we're coming up against is still showing about a 24-month timetable to get people to really begin to come back. And in a lot of ways, I don't blame them. I understand what's happening. All we can do is just keep taking the right steps to build consumer confidence. And that's what all retail businesses are doing right now. And I think it starts with following guidelines. I think that's really important. People see that you're paying attention to that. In terms of survival for cash, you got to start looking under every rock, right? I mean, it starts with, if you don't own your building, you talk to your landlord. We've done that, and I think the landlords are in the same situation. They don't want to lose tenants, so it's this big vicious circle that we're all working through. And it's important to be calm and not let the lows take over, because people can get really down about it, and I'll understand that there will be better days, and that's how you go about it right now. The strong entrepreneurs and business owners will survive. Absolutely.
So were there any resources you found, Rick, that really helped as far as to navigate some of these things?
My banker.
The banker?
I mean, really, it just came down to is how fast can you get a PPP loan? Who's submitting it for you? And then outside of that, you then need to get, that only lasted so much. Then, we went out and got an emergency injury disaster loan, which is excellent. It's low cost, 30-year payback. But you need, you have to follow the right procedures. So any consultants that can help you in that area, you should be putting them on your team. And that's what we did.
Terri, did you have a similar wonderful relationship with the banker to help?
Absolutely. Walked us through everything, was very proactive, called us. When this all happened, she called us and said, all right, this is what you need to do. And we also have an excellent relationship with our accountants, because, we were constantly calling them saying, we've got this, and how do you do this, and what are the ramifications, and how do you have to, it was a little frustrating because things would change, until they kind of got it set out, how you account for this, is this because it's a loan until it's a forgiveness, and so there's a lot with that. But if even if you don't think you're a huge business, like you said, it's crucial to have a good relationship with your bank and your accountants to get you through this. And then just other people in your industry. I think everybody, even if they're your direct competition, everybody's trying to help everybody right now. I mean, that's certainly what we have found. So it's a best practices kind of thing that you're looking for. What are you doing that's making it easier, and like Rick said, install confidence back and handling all the issues that are coming up.
So you mentioned very interesting previously, Terri, about how a lot of brides and a lot of wedding venues, and those of us that know that that's a significant part of your business.
Yeah.
So what has been happening with that? Are you rescheduling? Are you canceling? How are you working with your brides in these long-term event planning type things?
Well, most brides have rescheduled, which is great. And if they didn't want to reschedule, then we gave them their deposits back. I mean, it's certainly no fault of them, but that's scary because you're giving money out while you're taking none in. So I mean, that's a hard thing. But we did. This is not anybody's fault of what happened, and so. And then it's installing the confidence. We had, one bride that came in and said, I know that it's going to be okay by then, but I'm not sure if mine's not till the end of the year, but now I'm not sure that there won't be a resurgence of this. And then what do I do? So there's a little fear out there. I think people are starting to feel better. And, I think by the end of the year that people will start to, want to do events again and all that. But, it's kind of disheartening for a bride to think she has to wear a mask, going down the aisle and that kind of thing. And, you think about, your pictures and all of this stuff. So, it's a different kind of thing. We lowered our minimums for when we do get back because we know that people aren't going to want to be in large crowds. So there's so many aspects of it. And, what does it make sense? What is a minimum that then makes sense for us? You obviously you make more profit on your larger events, and we're not going to have the large events anymore. You're going to have mid-level events. So it like I said, during the time we were shut down, we looked at all of that, and we looked at all our costing, all our pricing, changed procedures. So, that's the time when you are a little bit slow to do a lot of planning and maybe do things differently.
So you've all three also touched on staffing changes and staffing issues and stuff, and what employees you bring back and how many and when, and so how do you all handle that responsibility? Because these are people whose lives depend on income, and so I'm just kind of curious how you've all dealt with that aspect of this, because some of our viewers may have employees and they're still trying to figure that out.
I mean, with that, we basically, from the, people who did the most and the ones that were the most tenure is kind of the way we based those situations. So if there were, hourlies in the kitchen who were like an assistant kitchen manager or something of the sort, those would be the ones we brought back first. For the front of house team, if they were, trainers, long-term employees, pub keeps, things like that, those would be the ones that we would have brought back first. And we just staged it as volume, demanded. And, ultimately this time we're pretty much 100% as far as employees go, back up to working. I mean, people aren't working as much as they were before, but at least we're able to get all those people back in and get them, paychecks and, all those things going again. So that's been really good to be able to do.
So
I do want to pipe in real quick, James. We suffered some of the things that you'd heard about in the news with the unemployment being more than what we could pay our employees. And that set us back a bit. We had some trainers that actually, they don't get paid until they train people. So if there's no one to train and there weren't any customers, they weren't working. So they went on unemployment. Then the unemployment started to pay them more than we could pay them if they were full-time trainers. So it became difficult to encourage them to come back. Some of these trainers had 20 or 30 people that were literally, and still are, waiting on the sidelines until that trainer is ready to return before they're ready to come back. So that had definitely a negative effect on our business.
That was not something I had a lot of issue with, surprisingly. Maybe one or two in the front of house were reluctant, because of that reason. But honestly, the majority of my employees were ready and willing to come back as soon as we called them, which was really nice. They're people. They're people. They want to be talking to guests and talking to their regulars and, seeing how they've been and checking in on them. So they were all really happy to get back, doing what they do best.
So speaking to that, though, obviously you're bringing these employees back. There have been, in their world of exposure, and they have their lives, and you can't really govern what they're in contact with all the time. So what protocols and stuff did all of you put in place, though, for employees to make sure they're keeping your clientele safe? How that factor into your reopening guidelines of your staff?
For us, it was, mandatory temperature checks, which we still do, as you walk in the building. Literally from the moment you step in, you have a mask on at all times. In the beginning, we were doing gloves all the time for the front of house. As we learned more and got in more information and more guidelines, we realized that necessarily wasn't the best procedure. And again, it really goes to training, going over what they need to be doing, what they need to be watching out for, how they need to be handling each interaction with a guest or a credit card or a payment or busting plates. And it's really just being observant of what your staff is doing and keeping and holding them accountable all the time. Anytime there's any issues with sickness or any of those things, no one's coming to work. They're required to get tested, based on whatever the guidelines are at that time with the CDC. At the level and the volume, it's not unmanageable. There's been several times where, we ran short, due to those situations, and that's just what we did. You know, the management team or whoever would step up and fill them when we needed to.
Yeah, we've done similar things, and if someone calls out sick, they can't come back for 2 weeks unless they have a negative test. I mean, it's just, you know, that's one of the things that we're doing. Like, you know, I think it taught some couple of employees a lesson. Like, you know, if you just kind of didn't feel like coming to work today, well, now you don't come for 2 weeks, because unless you have a negative COVID test, you know, you can't come back until, you know, you quarantine for 2 weeks. So, you know, there's a lot of little things to do that, you know, it's a lot to keep up with, but, you know, it's the right thing to do, and it's what we need to do to keep everybody safe.
And as things keep evolving and changing, how do you stay on top of, like, you know, a change in a misinterpretation or a reinterpretation of a guideline or a regulation that you thought was great but might have to have been corrected? So how do you guys deal with that? Like, what's the process?
I think, honestly, I do think a lot of it is just common sense. We know the two most basic things right now: physical distancing, 6 feet. You can't be 6, 8 feet away from somebody. You should have a face covering on. So as we run our businesses, I think as owners, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, have we done something where all of a sudden we forced a whole bunch of people to be in a small space? That's not good. It's not a good look. Same thing, staff has to abide. Staff has to wear face coverings, and we have to set the example. So those, to me, are the basics that you need to do going forward. It's what the science tells us. I'll let the others respond.
Well, I agree. We did have to get some clarification. We literally called the county because we had to get some clarification on a couple of things. I mean, yes, they made sense, but there were a couple things that seemed to contradict it in the guidelines. So we wanted to confirm, and then we make our decision. You know, and just because, you know, going into phase 2, we can open up at 50%, and you know, for events we can. We're not ready to jump back into that yet. We're just taking it very slow and trying to always do the right thing. So I think it's like Rick said, you just do the right thing.
All right, so we got 2 quick questions here to conclude, and then if we have any more coming through chat. But real quickly though, so if and this goes out to Rick and Terri, is if you have, like, what's the one big change you all have made that will kind of stay, that isn't going anywhere, that you're doing now that you're like, it's not that big of an extra burden, our clients love it, we're just going to keep doing it? What might those things be?
Well, it's funny because you say an extra burden. We were a very clean gym prior to COVID. We had plenty of wipes and so forth, but we've quadrupled that. So that's going to stay. However, that's a burden. It's costing us a lot of extra money. We haven't raised our prices, so that's something that will stay, and it's a new expense that we have to deal with. I think the most important operational thing for us is, it's simple. We need to bring fitness to people, so it's all digital. And the whole industry, the whole fitness industry has pivoted on this. So if you're not streaming classes or have a solution for trainers to train people digitally from their homes, and I mean high level platforms out there, you will lose out on that market opportunity. So we've recognized it, we're embracing it, and that's the biggest change that will stick with us.
I think on our end, one of the biggest changes is when we were closed, we changed a lot of procedures. We changed our personnel and who was responsible for this and responsible for that to streamline our operation. So I think that's huge for us. We hand sanitizers, that's going to stay. Having all the extra equipment, that's going to be with us for a very long time. We're trying to look at having as little touch, like checking out, and as absolutely possible. You can book online and pay for it. I mean, there's things that will stay that are frankly better, and our operation is much better than it was now with how we're doing things. So, there's some positives along with a lot of the things that have happened, and you just have to look for those positives and embrace them. It's a different world. today than it was. So nothing has to be the same, you know, and it's just important to continually now. What we do know too is we will continually looking at ways to do things better.
And so, last question. What is the outlook? What's the outlook on your businesses and what you feel is the community is in store for? I mean, what do you look at the outlook for the rest of 2020, but then also, you know, 2021 going forward? You know, when do you all think, based on what you're seeing, things will be a little bit closer to normal? If
Are
they're
you
normal.
You answer that first, as I want to know how my golf game is going to proceed for the rest of the year.
Oh, you're being serious. I think, you know, our golf, we're fortunate that we have a lot of new people playing golf. It's one of the things that you could do. And so our golf outlook is good. It'll be interesting to see, you know, the people from up north, whether they continue to come down. I mean, Florida kind of got a bad rap for a little while, but I think we're rebounding from that and doing what we need to do now. Golf is good. I think it'll take a little bit longer time on the event side, but I think if we're careful and people are careful and they understand going forward, you know, what we all need to do to make it safer for everybody. And I'm finding most people really have no problem with the basic guidelines. I think that we will get back. I don't know that we'll ever have the same normal. I mean, not for, you know, a couple years, but I think we will get back to a place that makes sense and that works. So.
Okay, so my answer is not quite as optimistic because I'm a little bit unable to control the outside forces that are working against us. If people, particularly the demographic that uses our services, because we are primarily a baby boomers and seniors health club, and that would be ages 50 to 80, 70% of our members. And these are the members, these are the folks that are still just not ready to come back or being very, very careful. So what really happens for us right now is just changing the narrative and trying to make sure that people understand how important exercise is to boosting your immune system, to your mental health. And it's essentially a necessity. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that they're getting anxious to get back and work out. We've seen a lot of folks over the age of 70 coming into the gym and just saying, I just need to work out. The other thing to remember is, where is COVID spreading? And it is definitely a younger population, 18 to 25-year-olds. That seems to be the demographic that's not paying as close attention, that's spending more time with each other, that's less fearful of getting sick. So we're trying to let people know that, look, if you're at home doing nothing and then you come here and work out with other people who've just been at home doing nothing, we actually have one of the safest gyms in the area to come and exercise in. So this is what we have to do. We have a huge challenge in front of us. I have to work very, very closely with our property manager and landlord to make sure they understand that we're doing everything possible to try to get back to where we were. And I know we can, but the more I read and the more studies that are coming out are pointing to a much longer economic recovery for the fitness industry, upwards to 24 months. We just need to survive it, get to break even, and just help people stay healthy. That's the best we can do in our situation.
Well, thank you, Rick. I just want to give one last chance. Marcy Tinsley wants to know if somebody will work out for her. So, but no, I would love somebody to come work out for me, because I've put on the quarantine tent. So, you know, I just wanted to say, frankly, thank you to Jacob for his time today. Thank you to Terri for her time today, and also Rick, thank you. Your insights and your advice is greatly appreciated, and hopefully some of our chamber members and the public watching on Facebook has found some great resources or some great advice from this. As well, I really want to thank Alexander Cook from Optimist Capital, our sponsor for today, a great chamber member and a great community member, and truly we appreciate you, Alex, in your sponsorship today. I would also like to conclude with give Marley Branick, who is our marketing events manager for the chamber, a little opportunity to speak about upcoming events. and then she'll sign us off. So thank you everybody for your time today. Thank you to our speakers and our panelists, and thank you all. And we will hopefully see you again soon. So Marley.
All right, and now it's my turn to thank James, our fabulous moderator. And thank you everyone for joining. So everyone will receive an email momentarily with sponsor and panelist contact information. The email will also include our upcoming events, but I just want to touch on a few. Tonight at 6 p.m., we have our Young Professionals Monthly Mingle, which will include an at-home scavenger hunt. If for those of you who are not yet members, please join us on Monday for our future member info session. And for those of you who are members, we have an exclusive event for you on Tuesday, Successful Connections Chamber 101. And then looking ahead, our next Business Before Hours, which is the annual Mayor's Breakfast, will stream live on Facebook at 8 a.m. on September 23rd. And then in October, you can take part in a month-long mileage challenge called Run, Creep, or Crawl Challenge. You log how many miles you run or walk for the whole month, challenge your friends, colleagues, and you get a cool shirt, a medal, and a neck buff. Like I said, information for all these things will be in your inbox soon, and I thank you all for joining today.
Thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.